Well, look who's back. Yes, it's me, Leaf, emerging from my unplanned but unfortunately necessary hiatus. Turns out my illness, multiple sclerosis, sometimes makes focusing and a few other things a lot harder than I originally anticipated. And these past few months, it's been a roller coaster. I don't want this channel to focus on my health issues because where's the fun in that? However, mentioning some stuff might just be unavoidable at times, especially when I need to explain my absence. Honestly, abandoning this channel entirely would be an easy and not entirely a logical solution, but I don't want to lose it. I like this channel. Besides, I'm adapting, I think. And at least, Tales of Seikyu is here to provide some much-needed distraction. Of course, I'm still waiting for my time at Evershine, very much so. Sure, when the alpha comes out, I'm not going to be able to talk about it, but I just can't wait to get my hands on it. Meanwhile, I'm gonna talk about Tales of Seikyu because not long ago it entered early access. It's not gonna be a long video, just some early impressions because I didn't manage to play a whole lot, just a few hours, but it was enough for me to form some basic opinion. For those who've been following me for a while, you'll remember I talked about this game way back during its Kickstarter campaign. And of course I backed it because impulse control is overrated when it comes to promising indie games. Tales of Seikyu is a cozy life sim steeped in Japanese folklore where you build a farm, grow crops, interact with yokai, and engage in surprisingly satisfying combat. I dabbled in the alpha version, the test version, and while I already liked its vibe, I'm happy to see that early access actually brought some tangible improvements. Maybe I shouldn't mention this, after all, alpha version was a test version and there was an NDA, but that's in the past. And it didn't run all that well for me and I was slightly worried. So I'm happy to see that a lot of the jank is mostly gone. On the other hand, I did get a new PC recently, and my graphics card is a bit better now, so maybe that's the reason. In any case, now there's much less stuttering than before, making everything feel smoother, and actually the animations look better, I think. It's not bug-free, but it does run rather smoothly for me this time. So, let's talk about the experience. First, Tales of Seikyu is undeniably charming. It's the kind of game that makes you want to curl up with a warm drink and disappear into its world for hours. And I'm seriously pissed off I can't do that. And I can't because if I sit down for more than half an hour, my legs go numb. It sucks. Anyway, the graphics are relatively good, even though I've never been a fan of cel shading. It's a personal preference, not a deal breaker. On the one hand, it gives the whole game this stylized anime-like feel, and on the other, it makes it look somewhat flat. But it's not like this game lacks beauty. There are scenes and there are places that look really pretty, especially at night. The character designs. The character designs are interesting, but here's the thing. The characters themselves don't quite feel unique personality-wise. They should, because everyone is literally a different kind of yokai, but somehow they blend into each other, lacking the distinct quirks that could make them more memorable. And of course, the absence of voice acting amplifies the issue, making the interactions feel somewhat flat. To be clear, no voice acting is not really a problem. Most farming sims don't have it. And it's not like the characters don't have any individuality, it's just not as pronounced as I would like. There are only a few characters I had a really clear first impression of. Seabird, because he's got a whole establishing scene, also because he's literally the first character we meet, and Yoji, because he feels a bit sus, and his looks are clearly based on the Baron from Whisper of the Heart. Yeah, I gotta say that some of the designs, cool as they are, seem to be a bit too inspired by Studio Ghibli's creations, Kababa, for example. Now, I know it's intentional, it's like a shout out, but somehow it doesn't sit well with me. Now, despite varied designs, I keep mixing some of the characters up. I keep mistaking Sasaki for Musashi, Yoni for Yui, Shuten just fades into the background for me, and Leon seems like a case of style over substance, at least for now. Visually stunning, but I can't say anything about his personality. He's just there. On the other hand, maybe I just need to spend more time with all of them. But they just don't really interest me that much. I am much more interested in the overall story than in particular characters. But on the bright side, the core concept of the game, building a life among supernatural beings as one of them, it absolutely remains fascinating. I love this idea. And the combat animations, fast, fluid, and downright satisfying. Maybe a bit too satisfying, if I'm being honest. After I got a new set of knife-like thingies from a quest, one click of a mouse makes my character launch into a lightning-fast attack that can reduce an entire tree to pieces. But that's another interesting element. Despite this game following well-established paths typical for your average farming sim, we don't use that many tools. Because we are our own tool. Or rather, our ability as a kitsune to transform into multiple creatures is a tool in itself. Eventually, when we manage to learn the transformations, that is. So we don't actually need a pickaxe or a hoe. And if we can fell trees and destroy rocks with our own body, the game recognizes we should also be able to do it with our primary weapon of choice. And so we can, and it's fun. Maybe a bit too easy, but definitely fun. So, visuals are okay, gameplay is quite fun, and the music, easily one of the strongest elements. I love the music in this game. Of course, beyond befriending townsfolk and swinging weapons, Tales of Seikyu keeps us busy with a variety of other activities typical for the genre. There's fishing, cooking, gathering resources, farming, because no life sim is complete without a flourishing crop situation, crafting, and of course mining. But mining here isn't just smashing rocks. It takes an interesting spin with ruin exploration, giving off a slight My Time at Sunrock vibe. Kinda. However, the mouse and keyboard controls can feel a little strange at times. Nothing game-breaking, but they do take some getting used to. I'm mostly talking about the choice of keys. And this seems to be a common trait in Chinese-developed games. Immortal Life, another farming sim I talked about a few years ago, had a similar feel. The My Time series is more westernized in this regard, but it still uses B for backpack instead of more familiar I for inventory or the tab key. Likely it's a difference in general design philosophy between Chinese and Western games, but once you settle in, I think it's perfectly manageable. In short, Tales of Seikyu has charm, a compelling setting, and mostly solid mechanics, but it still needs time to reach its full potential. The story feels intriguing and the foundation is strong, but the game as a whole could use more refinement, so it's good that it's in early access. It gives the developers room to flesh things out. For now, I'll be tending to my little farm, occasionally getting distracted by ruin exploration, and of course trying to get to know all the yokai, and maybe romance someone. And I am very curious to see all the upcoming changes and, hopefully, improvements. Alright, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next video. Take care.